Thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. My name is Andrea Clem, and I am an astrologer from the local area. And I want to say thanks for tuning in today. We've got a really interesting show planned for you. And as you can see on the screen, the title of today's show is Ramona Interviews. And that is because my guest is Ramona Pokoly from Worcester, Mass. And she is the host and producer of Ramona Interviews, which airs on WCCA TV 13 on Worcester's City Community Access Station. Welcome, Ramona.
Welcome, Angie. You know, it is fabulous to be here in Manchester, New Hampshire, Channel 23 MPTS. It's always good to be at a sister station and see what's going on, see a wonderful new town. So thank you for just that opportunity in itself. What a beautiful city.
Yeah, it is. It is nice.
And it's got a great skyline.
Yes.
So, you know, the city looks great. The buses, you get the green buses going on. It's all happening here in Manchester, I'm telling you. It's really nice to be here. I'm really happy. Thank you.
It's an interesting story how I met Ramona. Ramona Garcia, who's a very dear friend of mine, an internationally known psychic. You've seen her on Turn to the Stars before. She introduced me to Ramona, and we've just had some fun, you know, talking about, you know, our TV shows and our goals and so forth. And Ramona, as you can see, does Ramona Interviews, and so she's been in that doing that for quite some time. And what I love about her show is that she has this title at the beginning of her show that says where the telling of stories begins. And I know I love a good story, and anytime that I remember growing up saying, tell me a story, tell me a story. So that's why I like that so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It kind of started off as not all the guests actually tell a story, but in the very beginning, one of the people who really kind of got me rolling as far as a guest actually came on and did a show, and he talked about his life, and he wanted to do it for his children and his grandchildren. Yeah. This is what he wanted to leave. He wasn't ill or anything. It's just so he talked about his life, and he also volunteered at the station, which was great, WCCA TV 13 in Worcester. So he came on and he read some poetry, and he talked a little bit about he was a businessman in the city and what that was like, and then, you know, what he was doing in his life now. So that was really a story that kind of unraveled or rolled through, and it was a great experience. Yeah.
So that kind of is the root of where that
actually came from. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And when I think about, you know, the community TV station, and you know that you're doing the same thing, and it's kind of interesting because we've talked about our common goals with the TV show, and you know, how important to you, you know, how important is community access in your interpretation, or you know, how would you explain that? How important it is?
Community access is. It's first and foremost local, which I think makes it, how do you say it? I love where I am. I like the people that I work with, and everyone has that same common goal. How do you get out a message without the hype, without the drama, unless you want to create that for yourself, in a format where there's no commercialism, no one's binding you, tying your hands, you can't say this, you can't do that. Community access allows that. It also allows college students to come in and do internships so that they can learn television production, which a lot of colleges do offer that, which is great. But you can take it a step further because you can do reporting. Yeah. You can get training on equipment, current equipment, which is great and so important. And then you can actually do the work. You're not locked in. Generally, you can switch from director to producer to writer to reporter to anchor person and really grow and stretch yourself. Yeah. So community access allows you to do that. It also gives you that local feel, which is so important. What's actually happening in your community, because as the news stations have become larger and larger, as we know, we get great world news, and we get great regional news. But sometimes, you know, the little local stories, they get lost. And as papers are merging and changing, again, it fills that void.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's just a federal regulation that says that no taxpayer money is generally used, that it comes out of the Cable Act of 1972, and funding is available for cities who want to pick it up. And I just think it's great. I mean, you wouldn't have a show, and I wouldn't have a show if we didn't have the cable access.
Absolutely.
So I can't say enough about it. It's been such a great experience. And without it, we wouldn't be here talking to you and sharing.
Yeah.
It's just fabulous.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for anybody who wants to share information and knowledge of whatever it is that their interests are.
Yeah,
in the world.
And a lot of those stations are now going to the web, which is even better because it gives it more of a structure. You can go. I'm assuming Channel 23 is on the web.
Yeah, live stream.
Live stream? Okay.
Yep.
So, you can go to Channel 23 and know that there are going to be shows that you can see, maybe by your favorite person that you want to see. But then you could go to Channel 13 in Worcester and see maybe something that they have. They have an antiques show. You can see my show. You can see other people who do shows. And it kind of gives you a little piece of different places in a region.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I think that that's why it's important that we kind of share shows with each other and we talk with each other and go different places so that we can get that information out.
Sort of a uniting of what we do, which is a great thing in this time we're living in, because we were having this conversation about, the age that we're being introduced to, that's birthing at this time. The age of Aquarius is about uniting, people coming together with common goals, and everybody taking part and doing their part. And it's interesting, too, because I think we talked a little bit about history. Could you share with our audience some of the history of Community Access TV?
Oh, sure. Well, I can talk a little bit about WCCA TV 13.
Yeah.
They were actually, I'm going to kind of read through my notes because I don't actually work for them. I'm a volunteer there, but they gave me this great little bio. But basically, because of the formation of the Cable Act in 1972, WCCA began in 1986 and has been on the air ever since. They have grown and changed over that time. Of course, now they're on the internet. They archive shows, so if you do a show there, it gets archived and can get pulled out and put everybody anywhere, accessed anywhere in the world for free, which is great. They're now in a very large $1 million building downtown in Worcester on Main Street. They're at 415 Main Street in Worcester. And they do many of the things that a community access station would do. So they do training, they do production, they do original shows, they bicycle other shows from other places, which is great. So you get a variety, not only get to see what's in the city and around the city, but also what comes out from other sister stations and other people wanting to do things. They have a youth program where they have the youth come in through the schools. They have a computer, what do they call that? Community computer room, where people from the community can actually come in and use the internet, and that kind of introduces them to the studio. They work with colleges. So again, those interns will come in, they'll work for a semester, they'll get college credit, they'll get to do a production. They'll either do the news show, they'll come and do my show, because I'm very, very fortunate that I get a staff member that actually helps me, because it's hard for me to be interviewing and hosting, as you know, and doing the production part of the piece. So they would help with that, setting up cameras. So they learn hands-on how to do different things in different ways. So Mauro Di Pasquale, a visionary, is taken that small little was in a barn, and then to Grove Street, now to this big studio, and really expanded and developed it. And that's why shows like mine, and hopefully shows like yours, will get bicycled, and you'll see it in Worcester, and then of course all over the world.
Oh, great.
I mean, it's such a great access, and we do every 4 years negotiate contract. The city does, and we step up and we say, look, community access is important, and the people in our city realize that, they value that, because you see them come out when they have to go to City Hall and when they're doing the negotiations. And I'm sure it's like that in every city that has a public access station. It's
really great to have that information that you just shared, because I don't think many of the viewers of Community Access actually realize that, what the history is and how far-reaching community access actually is.
Yeah, it's amazing, and technology has helped this tremendously. It cost a lot initially to get the equipment that you need, but once you've overcome that capital cost, you know, and you and I both use YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, these shows can be seen that way as well. So this is just another access point to link us together,
Yeah.
link people with specific interests together in a place where they can get that information. And I think that that's so important. I mean, that was one of the reasons, the second reason why I started my show to begin with.
Yeah.
You know.
And so what inspired you? You know, what was the, I would say, underlying reason of the inspiration of you having a TV show?
You know, it was really simple. I wanted to grow. I wanted to stretch and I wanted to grow. And doing my own production meant that.
Yeah.
It meant understanding how to do a set, how to take the tools that I was learning in college. I had gone back to school to get my degree in communications. And I was doing things in the college because they had their own, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's, you know, this was something that I could take. So when I first started volunteering at that community access station, I was doing their news show, weekly news show. So I was writing copy, reporting, going out, covering events. Like we covered when Clinton came to the DCU Center, Deval Patrick when he was coming up, and the political things. You do the things that are right in town first.
Right.
And I loved doing it, and I did the teleprompter and anchored, but I wanted to stretch a little bit more. You know, how do you do a little bit more? And not only that, but it was kind of fun to think about having guests, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, who would you have and why and how would you set that up? And, you know, my mother was very inspirational. My aunt was very inspirational. The station was very inspirational. And it just kind of all came together. And before you know it, you have your set, and you have your two chairs, and your colors are pink and gray, and you're going on. And, you know, and you're just starting, and you find things that interest you, and then there you are, all of a sudden you're putting it together, or you're grabbing the camera and going out and filming disc golfing. What is disc golf? You know, what does this mean? You know, what's going on? And, you know, and it's just, and the people, you know, the people that you need to be drawn to you are drawn to you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
it's true.
They see
That
the
is
value
true.
in what you're doing, and they say, yeah, time is money. And I realize that I'm volunteering my time to come to the station and do this, but
Yeah.
you know, they see that value, and it just shows, and it makes for a great interview, great ideas, great stories, great events that are happening.
Yeah.
So it's you do it, you know, you love it, it's a passion.
You have to be creative, and you were talking about exercising, so exercising your creative muscles, you know, and you know, and talking about that, I made a video for Ramona, and just to sort of honor her coming all the way up here, and it shows you some history of shows that she's had, added a little music, so it's really fun.
And 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years.
8 years.
Of Ramona Interviews.
Yeah. 8 years.
So
So you can tell me my hairdos will change. The pictures, you can almost tell what year I was in.
Well, that's fun. You know, that's good. And so we're going to play that video for you right now. We'll be right back. some great history in that video of past shows that Ramona has brought forth to everyone to, share information and knowledge. And Ramona, can you share with us what some of those guests were, who they were, what their story was?
Yeah, and each one was a little bit different, and sometimes my guests come with themes. It's whatever might be hitting me at the time. I remember when Massachusetts started its tax credits for film people, and they wanted them to come in and do more filming. So at that time I was acting, and my son was acting as well. So that kind of brought us to Daryl, who was on I'm going to not remember the name of the movie that he did, Shutter Island.
Oh, yeah.
And worked with Martin Scorsese. So he came on. He couldn't really tell us a lot about the filming itself because they're under contract. But so he talked about that. Susan Franz came on. She was an actress. She's done a lot of extra work in New England. She's now moved on to California. So I also had an attorney come on and talk about tax credits if you were a company or an indie producer and what you would need to know in order to do that. So that was kind of like a little theme that carried on.
Yeah.
Now, Susan Powder came on. Her agent actually called, her publicist called the station and were looking for someone. And I have to give a shout out to Zara, who works there. Zara channeled her right over to my show, which was great. She was fabulous. She worked a camera like no one I've ever seen. She was a seasoned pro. She was a lot of fun to do. Some people love her, some people hate her. Hey, she was promoting a book. Great show. Really, really enjoyed it. So that was with Susan, and she talked a little bit about her life, mostly about her book. And her book was more or less a lot about her life, at least eating and how she saw things politically. I think it was called The Politics of Stupid at that time.
Yeah.
The other guests I've had, the Halloween contact lenses are the easiest ones to remember because they were...
Those are really interesting.
They were really interesting. And that kind of started because my son is into anime and he wanted to get a contact lens and he didn't wear glasses. And I said, whoa. How does this work?
Yeah.
What's the story with contact lenses and stuff like that? So that was fun. We went to the doctor. We had an appointment. We took some ideas from that. We had the FDA. We have a gentleman from the Federal Drug Administration that comes on, Joe. And he talked a little bit about their license, not license, what to look for, when to buy them, things like that. So that was great, and we just rolled those pictures in so people get an idea what we were talking about. I did a series on anger management with UMass Memorial Hospital, and the woman's name was Mary Bennett. She was fabulous, and she was nice enough to come in 3 times and give practical tips on how to deal with anger, when you get angry, what to do. How to tell when your anger is not just you're mad, but you're going to be blowing a fuse type of thing. Right. It's a great series. It's up on YouTube. So that was a great public information. I've also done a cooking show for cooking restrictions because I have some dietary restrictions, so that worked out well. And of course, Ramona Garcia, which kind of brings us to the front of the show here with you. She had come on. I had met her. She had done readings for me. She's my reader. And she wanted to come on and talk about actually how she got into that whole experience. And a little bit about her life. So again, that was another story that had a kind of practical sense to it. I love the idea of being able to share something, have someone come on and talk about it. But what's really important is, what can you take away from that?
Absolutely.
Do you take away something positive?
Yeah.
Does it end up resonating with you on some level? And then how can you take those tools or that information and do something really practical with it? Practical for tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Right.
That's the key.
That's what I love about Ramona, is that her show brings that piece, the tools of life, to the TV to the TV set and to you. And that is very important. And astrology is is a tool that I use, and for you, I think that it's just so interesting the way that you have the show structured, and that people who are watching can get so much out of it.
I hope so.
And that's why I like you so much.
Well, I learn from every guest I have.
Yes.
I really do. And if I have an author that's coming on, I actually read the book. So that I know. Every guest is different. And how they present themselves and what they'd like to say and the message they'd like to get across. So I take that time to try to understand my guest and look, you know, and if someone wanted to be a guest on the show, one of the things that they would need to do is to email me.
Yeah.
You know, and be able to make the studio time. As you know, the community access has a tight schedule, so you need to be able to make that studio time. And then, you know, to say, you know, how do you fit into the format of those stories, those ideas, those events that are positive?
Right.
You know, that you could leave the viewer with a tool. You could share something that can resonate with the viewer.
Right,
you know?
right.
And then we kind of go through a process through emails, and then I send out questions, and we come back and forth with questions, and then from there it kind of grows. And I, you know, like we were talking earlier on our way in, if it's meant to be, it falls into place.
Absolutely. And then your overall goal with Ramona Interviews
is to create shows and content, whether in series or individually, that can be placed with other people doing shows, kind of like a one-stop shopping type of venue. And so that way someone could tune in and get information on different things, not only just from my show, but from other community access shows that are going on.
Yeah.
I
Sort
think
of like
that's
a hub.
really important, like a hub, to create a kind of hub. And I think that that's really important. I think we need that. There's a need for it. It's just finding how to bring it forward. And that's why the nice thing about community access is people can reach you.
Yeah.
You're not so secluded.
Yeah.
You know, so they can get a hold of you on LinkedIn. They can find you through email. They can, you know, and they can say, gee, I'd like to see this. I'd like to see you, you know, maybe someone would like you to do the astrology on Syria, for instance.
Right.
You know, but they have an interest in that. Or if someone said, did you ever think of interviewing on this particular subject for me? You know, I can research that and find out and get you that interview. And that's almost impossible to do on bigger stations.
Yeah,
because they just don't have the time or the resources.
Right. And there's a certain there's a different goal in mind, and we're actually much more accessible. You're accessible, and I'm accessible, and you know, I always say it should be real. You know, it should be real for the people watching, and that, like you said, we can take it and use it in our lives. That's the most important thing. And so, how does someone apply to be on your show? I know we've put your Ramona's email address at the bottom of the screen, but how do they apply?
Basically, if you look at the YouTube, like for instance, if you go to youtube.com/Ramona Interviews, those are mini clips of my show. So you can look at that through time and see the types of shows that I've done. And then you can say, you know, gee, does my message, my story, or my idea, or whatever we want to talk about kind of fit into that? And that will give you a guideline right away. Some people, you know, they're not very comfortable with a one-on-one. They might not want to be in a comfy chair, and you know, they might have a different format in mind. So that's the first thing that I usually suggest people do. And then you email me and contact me, give me a brief bio, who you are, you know, what you like to talk about. And then from there, it's usually, okay, does that fit? Do you make the scheduling time? And then we kind of start that conversation back and forth about, you know, what you're doing and when you can come and how it gets done. And my turnover time is usually a couple weeks. I do all my editing at home.
Yeah.
Because it gives me more control that way, and my life is very busy, so I'm able to do it if I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep. Not that I do that all the time, because I don't, but it has happened.
Yeah, it does happen. Suddenly you're awake, and this idea is in your head, and you've got to do something about it.
Absolutely.
I know that. I know it very well. And what are the hours when does your show play on Worcester Channel 13?
Channel 13. Mondays at 10:30, Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. and 4:30. And then Wednesdays, oh good, she's got to tell me, Wednesdays at 3 o'clock and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. And Monday nights, it's 10:30 at night. That's what they consider their premiere time.
Oh.
So actually it does show quite often, but again, the little YouTube pieces are really nice to see, because you can get like a little mini
The archives,
thing. But not everything is in YouTube, because I have 156 shows.
Yeah.
Over 8 years, so you know, not everything's there. But if you go to WCCATV.com, almost everything is there.
Archived.
And it's all archived, as I'm sure many of your shows are archived here, you know, at Manchester, New Hampshire, Channel 23.
Yeah, wanted to mention that Ramona's interview on YouTube is YouTube /
.com
Yeah.
/ Ramona Interviews.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just YouTube's address and then the name.
Yeah, because I was looking at that as I was creating the video with, pictures of the history of Ramona's work on TV, and there's so much there. It's so easy to look at it, and if you're interested in this topic or that topic, or you just want to, you have some free time and you want to study, what this wonderful lady Mary talks about anger management.
Anger management, yeah.
And I know you had somebody on there talking about cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yep, I just had a woman, Helen, come on about cognitive behavior therapy.
Yeah.
She actually went through she made up a small case history of someone,
Yeah.
which was great.
Yeah.
And kind of walked through what they would do in that type of therapy and why it's different than other therapies. So we're hoping to have a series on that, and they're going to actually dive into like ADHD, ADD, and there's a whole slew of other things that they deal specifically with, a lot of phobias and things like that. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it should be really interesting. And it's one of those things that you work to get your goal achieved. You work to get your guests, and you work to get what you want done. But at the same time, it's kind of like what fascinates you, kind of what leads you, and it ends up all being relevant.
And it's so interesting because it's interesting to you. It's also interesting to many people watching the show.
I hope so.
Yeah, it is, and I find it is anyway. Because going over her archives. But we're pretty much close to the end of the show, so I do want to say a real big thank you for you making this extra effort to come up here to Manchester from Worcester. It's a bit of a hike, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future.
Oh, I hope to. It's a beautiful, beautiful city, and this great community access is really nice here.
It is. It's very nice.
I'm very impressed. It's
very
great
nice
to go.
atmosphere.
It is.
Yeah, thanks to Joe and Brendan and all the staff here. So everyone, thank you so much for watching Turn to the Stars this week, and we do hope that you have a great week, and so we'll see you next week. Take good care.